1, 2, 3, 4.
I gotta do all this passcode crap again for some reason.
When they're in open session, certification of compliance, please.
Madam Chair, I move that the closed meeting was conducted in conformity with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as required by Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, and certify that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
A motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion carried. I want to welcome everyone to our special call meeting, and at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Perkins to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is action on closed session items, the personnel report.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is report from the superintendent, and we're going to begin with the capital improvement plan.
Yes, Madam Chair and board members, in the packet of information we gave you, the first sheet is the current plan that was approved by the Board of Supervisors. And now, you guys have that one. So I did write on that, and my note was the CIP committee asked Davenport LLC to run new numbers with these amounts. So this was 2 CIP meetings ago with the county. And so if you look at the new Hardy Elementary School, they put in $11 million in those first 2 years. And the CIP committee asked them to put 13.5 for each year, because that was based on, it was looking like about 27 million to actually build that building. And of course, we're getting ready to put that out to bid, so those numbers will be firming up soon. And the other discussion was West Side. At the time, I think Mr. Grice asked to put another $1 million in each one of those years for $30 million because of the Georgie Tyler prototype that we were looking at, I think was built for that. And we did have some discussion at the last CIP, and Ms. Ulick was there as well, that was construction costs. There were possibly site costs that were not included, technology, furniture, the architect, and that building was looking more like $39 million. So, again, just some discussion on that. It does not look like an 1,125 student school is going to come in with all total costs at $30 million.
So did I hear you say it could be 39
It
million
could be.
versus
Now,
30
that
million?
was Manchester in Chesterfield County. We don't know what their site conditions were versus our site conditions. We don't know what they paid for furniture, or what their furniture packet was. So there's a bunch of variables in there. But I would be very surprised if we're gonna get everything for an 1,125 student school for 30 million. And I think Mr. Grice talked to the person who's in charge at Chesterfield who helped oversee that project.
The site work alone ranged from 1.2 million to 4.8 million, depending on the school. And so like, it would depend on what site work needs to be done. So that's a huge difference. I mean, that $4 million or that $3 million difference makes a big difference. When you're talking about, you know, it being 35 or 38 million or.
All right, so I just wanted to clarify, this is the current approved plan by the Board of Supervisors. And of course, every year, we open it up to the public in the fall and we resubmit the plan, and we put where in here would we like our projects to fall. And of course, every agency that reports to the county does the same thing. And then the planning commission looks at it and they have their recommendations to the Board of Supervisors, and they decide based on their funds and where this all falls. So that's how it happens. And so with that said, at our last meeting, the items brought to us were renovation of the band and chorus. And we actually, that was brought up after this process last year in the spring. And I actually pulled in RRMM at that time. And they actually walked the school, listened to our concerns, and there's just a rough sketch of option 1 and 2, which might happen if you renovate in Smithfield High. And basically, to make the band room large enough, you would have to knock down the wall between the band and chorus room, and that would become the new band room. And then where would chorus go? One of their options was down where I think art is located right now, and then move art to another part of the building. And basically, the architect went throughout the building and we looked at possible alternatives. And then he put possible costs. So if you look at the cost sheet, they're really not out of line with the projects we did with CTE and this, converting those spaces, but it's expensive work. If you remember all the CTE spaces with the Smithfield food money plus the money that we used from Pruden and to pay for debt service was, I think it was $11 million we spent on all of that. So the renovation, one of the plans is 2.4 million, and one of the options was right at a little over 2 million. So it's quite a bit of money to renovate those 3 places. And now temporarily, I do have the architect coming, I think Monday. I can't remember my schedule, but looking just at like acoustical panels to put in, maybe soundproofing some of those doors between the band and chorus. It still is not going to alleviate the space factors. So we can put a Band-Aid on it. So this is something for you guys to think about. Is this something you want to look at? And this gives you rough numbers to renovate. You're probably looking at this much or more if you want to build a facility like somewhere behind Smithfield that just has chorus band. So I just wanted to get a number for you that if we want to do this and we're looking at doing that for the future, where does that fall in our plan? And that's for the next meeting when you guys vote on a CIP plan.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know, I'm for one, I don't like to take students backwards myself because I can remember when I took chorus in school, we utilized the auditorium. But, and the reason I'm going to say this is because I know in the future we're planning to do some construction up there. And eventually, hopefully, Smithfield High School can gain more space after that construction. That's the future plan. If we could possibly maybe locate the course in the auditorium during the week for classes, because it's lots of space there, and then they have the auditorium, and normally the stage, and normally when they perform on stage. You have the seating there where they could spread out and see. It's a temporary Band-Aid right now until we go forth in the future, especially if we don't have the funding to do the construction that's needed right now.
I'm not sure, is drama in that space right now? Yeah, so
Drama is there.
drama is utilized.
They have a classroom.
But they use the auditorium.
Okay, I didn't know if it was being utilized. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been a
Yeah.
possible plan.
Well, I mean, it's still not off the table. They can always work out with drama and see what
To go sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, we do have some short-term, I think, Band-Aid solutions, but just throw it out there, long-term, where does that fit in our 10-year plan? And just to consider that.
Because we will have more space when Smithfield Middle School becomes a part, won't we? I mean, can you think of a plan when that happens where this could be, or is that not?
Possibly, we have talked about that some, and so when you have the two schools together, there are some options that we haven't talked about. I was actually going to present
Yeah.
at our next meeting as we start talking about this. So that school can either be 8 through 12, which we've said all along,
Yeah.
or because it's separated, it could be an 8-9 junior high and a 10-12 with plenty of growth.
Right.
But even if it's just 8-12, because you have 5 grade levels,
Yeah.
you still may need that additional chorus room that's in the middle school now.
Okay.
So there's some possibilities to look at that. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if this is something that we should jump at and do right away, because we do need to examine it more, and if there's funding there. So I think we can do the Band-Aid, and then we can explore with that movement happening, could we do something? But I wanted to put a cost to it, because, I mean, you saw the public asked, and it is a true need. We have an outstanding band program.
We do.
We have a
doubt.
new chorus director who is lighting up the world, and that's what we want to see. And I think Vicki made a good point at the CIP meeting when we were talking about, do you need a auditorium in the new school?
No.
And you could say no, but then we don't know 20 years from now what our band, drama, with all these students, those programs may explode. And I think wasn't it Gerald Gwaltney or
Yeah,
who
he
spoke
was
up?
he was supportive of what I was saying, that
And
I don't think we
Don-
should be eliminating things from any project or anything, especially for the new west side.
Because when they built
We're not at that
Smithfield
point
High
yet to
School.
cut things. We're
Right.
trying to get it in place.
Right.
Um,
Because I think he said when the new high school was built, that was left off, and then it came years later. So,
They
That's
did,
right,
they
they did.
attached it.
That's
yeah.
right.
So it's just something to think about.
Let's do
I
the
think you
funding.
have to keep those things in mind, and we don't know what the future's gonna be. And I think Don Robertson said something about that.
The
They
banner,
thought
he
those
talked
spaces
specifically
were
about the banner.
huge when they first went in there,
Now they're small.
and now they can't fit our band and stuff, so.
I mean,
so.
I do think that it's a good idea to have this in the plan to expand, because even if you do have 2 rooms, the band is big, and it's not, the population is going up in our area, which I don't see it going down. If the population is going to continue to grow, we're still going to need that space. The band's not going to get smaller. The chorus isn't going to get smaller if we increase the amount of students in the school.
Right. So it's really just a matter of where you want to put, like, this as a placeholder within your plan. And it doesn't, just because you vote on it, and renovating, it doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. So, all right, so the other thing that we heard at Smithfield High School was a synthetic football field. And in your packet, too, was information from Coach Boone about that. And costing it out, and then he actually did a difference between natural grass and field turf and the ongoing upkeep for that. And so his rationale for having a turf field, and a lot of the schools that Smithfield High School play is a turf field. And I know turf fields in the past, as he talked to me about this, caused a lot of injuries, but the new turf is much improved and they're saying does not have that same liability with it.
Are they environmentally safe?
Yes, I think,
Especially for the athletes that's gonna be there on it all the time.
that was a concern with the initial
That's my
fields
concern,
as
because
well, but I think now
It's
because
still
of
out
those.
there being evaluated.
Right, and we can look at that too, as we, like I said, this is his data that he put together, and so you see the cost there, that we put together a new synthetic football field is $1,293,000, approximately $1.3 million. The new track is $169,000, but that is to replace the track, and that would be an asphalt track, if I'm correct, with the sprayed-on rubber surface, which is out there now. And they do wear out over time, and they do need to be addressed. And so one thing to consider with both of those projects, I think again to what you spoke of in the future as we move possibly Westside Middle School out there, we've already had a drawing from our architect. What would happen to move those fields that are practice fields now to possibly across the street or to another location? And the actual football field and track would not be disturbed by that, but it might be an opportunity to tie those projects into that west side. But again, all that's money and is driving up the cost. That would drive up site cost, et cetera.
And would there be similar upgrades to the fields at Windsor?
They were not asked for, but yes, they need to be looked at over time.
I would
And
think so.
whether Windsor, like I know Windsor, none of the schools really play on synthetic fields. And we did put money into both football fields to level them and drain them.
Right.
It's just, there's so much use on the Smithfield field with field hockey and some of the sports that Windsor doesn't have. It gets beat up pretty bad. So, any questions on that or thoughts? Like I said, we're not deciding anything today, but. All right, and the last thing, we had talked about this in the past, and I know Chris brought this up, being in charge of safety, the reconfiguration of the vestibules entering the schools. As we have researched new schools, in every new school, you walk through the front door, and you cannot get through the second door, but there's a door to the office. And so you can get into the office if we let you in the front door, but you can't get into the school without going through the office. And it's a major safety that they put in all schools. And they didn't put it in Georgie Tyler, which was built, 7 years ago. And so even Georgie Tyler is in these plans and oops, I've got so much stuff here. Your vestibule drawings, these were done by the architect too. Rough drawings, just to kind of give you an idea. That wall in Georgie Tyler would have to be pushed back past the door into the office. There is 2 doors now, but you can't get into the office. I think the biggest obstacle in these vestibules is Windsor High School. And because if you look at Windsor High School, where is that one? I'm trying to find it. So Windsor High School, I think that's the last one in your packet, has the double doors now, but the office is across the hallway. So the only way to do that would be to have some sort of like glass vestibule all the way through the hall and then doors in the hallway. I don't know if that's a good solution or not because of traffic flow. This may be something that we can't fix or we just don't fix. So that's the most challenging one. Everyone else can be fixed. where they have two walls and you can get into the office. So, and that cost was estimated at $286,000, and I think there was a breakdown in there. Was there a sheet with the breakdown?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The front page.
Right, on the front page.
Oops, I don't have that one. And so this was done, like I said, in January of 2019. So we would not do Hardy and West Side.
Right, because we're gonna need it.
That would be a waste of money. And adding a camera was a cost on there too. So you see where I got the cost of $286,000. And that was estimated at that time. Any questions with that? So I guess I just need, before our next meeting, is some feedback.
On this?
But yeah, whether you call me or whether you want to come in and discuss further and talk about where you think this should fall in the 10-year plan.
Okay.
All right. So the next topic is equity, and I have a PowerPoint that I shared with you guys. And the first slide just had a listing of our current committee members. And you see on there Bob Brennan, very passionate is what I'm hearing on the committee. Wayne Briggs, the new assistant principal at Smithfield High School. Christy Buggs, Tony Brown, Marcia Kale, Teresa Finch, Kristen Formella, Matt Johnson, Mike Lombardo, and Tiffany Truitt are the current committee members. The next sheet is really what this group of individuals is doing right now, currently. And they're going through some training. Mike, can you speak more to that, kind of what they've been doing?
Sure. So,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
no,
but
that's fine. Sure. So,
this-
yeah. Madam Chair, members of the board. So, specifically, the committee has been engaged in some professional learning. And what we've done is we have been taking part with VCU. They're offering training right now through a series of seminars related to equity. It's really around sort of the backdrop of it is how to become an anti-racist educator. And so we've just had an initial session. We have another one coming up. I believe it's next week. We're doing those virtually. So basically what the group does right now is they're participating in these sessions with VCU and then just debriefing as a group and having some discussion. So as we move forward as a division, at least this small group is a little bit better prepared to engage in these conversations and help lead this work.
Thank you. So the next slide, it talks about the look ahead. So I talked briefly about this at our last meeting, and one of the things that came up was the possible need for a coordinator of equity and diversity. Many schools have already employed such individuals and have started this work. And we do feel like that's essential moving forward, and that is their job, to work with this group, to work with schools, to work with children's, and also a possible independent consultant who's an expert in coaching and talking to children. Because what we feel is that the very next step is we don't want a canned program, and I think I stated before, we're all going to read a book about racism and do a training. We're digging deep, and to dig deep, you need professionals who can do this. And so we're having interviews with students, and we're going to start with students. It says parents, staff, community members. We're going to do all of that. But the first thing to inform our next steps in this process is going to be these interviews with students and developing the questions that we're asking these students. As you go through this process, it is very important to be reflective. Some of the questions that we may share with teachers and ask teachers, why do you teach? It's very reflective of why you teach. And if you really are working with a coach who can get you through that, it really helps you to develop a purpose that transcends your personnel, vocation, finance, or ego-driven needs, and dig deep to what your purpose is. And are you just there to get a good SOL score? To really pull, what is your purpose? And so that takes a professional to really do that. So the why I teach. And as you do some of the research, why do I teach the way I do? And we've all gone through this as teachers. You teach the way you were taught. And that is why a lot of our young teachers, I don't know how many conversations I have with people and say, oh, your young teachers are probably good with this collaborative learning and doing all that. The answer is no. Our young teachers have gone through 25 years of kill and drill to an SOL. You teach how you're taught. Even though they went to school and they've learned some of these strategies, you go back to what you're comfortable in and trying. So again, pulling that and then going deeper to the student questions, and how does it feel, or this is still a teacher question, what does it feel like to be taught by me? What a reflective question that is. And then, but to ask those students, and and I think Leah brought that up very well at our last meeting, whether you're white or black, we need to have these conversations with students. How do you feel when certain teachers are teaching you? And it's not going to be just race. All kinds of things are going to come out of this, whether it's gender, whether it's something with LGBTQ community. There's so many things that are hidden, and the people we need to talk to and not talk at is our children. So that is really going to be our first step, is to develop those questions with experts and go down and talk to our students at the elementary level, middle school level, and then especially at the high school level, who have experienced, they've lived the experience of Wight County, whether it's at the south end or the northern end of the county. What was your experience? And what was it really like? And for them to be reflective. Until you ask them these questions, they may not even be thinking about these questions. So that is the key next step before we go pushing along with the people on this committee. I think they can keep doing their reading and research, and I think that's important. But so that's our next step. And while we're collecting that data, that group is going to be they're going to be auditing our policies for equity. They're going to be going to classrooms and doing those audits and walking through buildings and doing those audits that we wanted to start last March. So they'll be collecting this data, and then hopefully the new coordinator of equity would be collecting this other data so it can inform our pathway, and we don't jump into something willy-nilly. So, any questions or comments? All right. And the last thing, which is the main reason why we had to call this meeting, is the CARES funding. So this is not our funding that we were given to have this year and next year, that 500-some thousand. This is an additional $981,000. And the breakdown of all the counties is in the information I gave you. And this is $220 million that the governor had in the money that he had sent to municipalities that had to be spent by December 30th. So this money was held back and has now been released to the schools to spend, broken down by ADM. The bad part is we have to spend this money by December 30th. So my team is putting together how best to spend this money and putting that together. And then once we have that breakdown by category, we can request that, put in those categories by the Board of Supervisors. But what we need you to do today is vote to accept that money and ask for an appropriation of $981,000 from the county. Normally, Rachel would have that breakdown for you, instruction, 200,000, technology, this much. We are still trying to get bids, put things together. So once we have that, I'll be able to give that to you, and we'll be able to give it to the Board of Supervisors. So what I'm asking is that you ask for that money to be allocated and give the administration permission to put that in the correct categories and send that to the county.
This has to be done quickly if we've got to spend it by December 30th.
It does. I already had to sign an assurance that the money would be spent according to the CARES guidelines. And I have another task in November,
November 15th.
November 15th.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we have to move quickly. And so even
Obviously,
before.
you've been thinking about this and planning.
We spent.
Already.
We spent more than half a day thinking of good ways to spend this money. And some of it is technology, some of it is furniture, some of it is possible training stipends for a lot of the training that has already happened with our employees. So that's probably the main focus of it, is the stipends, furniture, and technology.
Maybe custodians.
Oh, additional, possibly additional custodians within the buildings, yes, through SSC. Yeah, this is a big list, and until we cost it all out. And then we still have our own CARES funding. We still have, is it about 131,000 left? Approximately left in that, so.
Madam Chair, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right.
I was going to make the motion, so did
Go
you?
on, fine.
Madam Chair, I move that the school board request $981,120 additional appropriation of CARES funding and instructs the administration to determine and send the county an allocation by category.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and it has been seconded to accept the $981,000 for the CARES Relief Fund. Okay, motion carried. Okay, that's all on our agenda, but I want to see if anyone has something that they want to share questions before we adjourn. Anybody? The only thing I wanted to ask is if the superintendent can give us an update on the return to learn. I know this week the middle schools opened, and so any
Right.
new information?
Right. So I visited Georgie Tyler yesterday, and I think some of the teachers there may have had some apprehension going in, because it's almost like I wish we had gone in right away, because now you're set with the virtual and you're comfortable, but as you walk in the building, and I think if the community saw, and maybe I need to do a film walking through the building, it's like the dead zone. It's so bizarre to walk through this empty building, because there's only a quarter of the kids there. It's not even half of the kids. And so you literally go into classrooms with, very few have 12 kids. I did see a couple with 12 and 10. A lot of them have 4 kids, 6 kids. And so
What did we do with all the extra desks?
they're still in there. And so they're just spaced out. And so I guess some of the things, though, we've been doing very well for 7 weeks now, pre-K through 3, and that's exciting that we're doing well. And just some things that we're talking about, and so it probably would be good for you guys to hear and the public to hear too, is we are considering doing something with Friday as a recovery day. We have talked about At some point, we have to recover. We have some major gaps in reading, and we have to do something to close those gaps. And so right now, we know our teachers are at home that day, and so we're working on possible plans for that. We have nothing set in stone, but we're looking at Friday being a recovery day, where kids can come in that are in most need. So, and the other thing that we have to keep on the radar, and I think we should mention, I was actually going to do a vlog on this, and I'll still do one, but we need to remember that we're in a continuum, and I think people forget that, because I have started talking about, based on our data, looking at pre-K through 3 going to 5 days a week. So, and what does that look like, and when do you do those things? So we're having those discussions. So I want to start having them so people are not caught off guard that, hey, we never said that. Because most of our focus early on was, it was a continuum, but it was whether we're opening or not. And then we're going to open A, B. So when that comes, well, we're going to share on some vlogs, is what is that going to look like if we go to that? And it's going to be less than 6 feet, and it's going to be a mask all day. Parents would need to understand that. What's it going to look like on our buses? It could mean that we are more than 1 to a seat. So there's just some ramifications as we go down that road and look at that. But I want people aware of, so if that decision is made, that they're not, wait a minute, I didn't know about this. So we're just kind of having the discussion. We're definitely not looking at that. I think I panicked one of the principals yesterday when we were talking about this, is we have to talk about this as we plan. Saying, oh, we just opened. I'm like, we're not talking about middle and high school. We have no data on you guys. 4th and 5th has only been in a week. So we understand that. But we have a lot of data and a lot of success at elementary. So what does that look like? I'm going to see if I can visit and talk to Chesapeake Superintendent and come visit, because they are open pre-K through 3, 5 days a week.
Isn't that how they started?
They did start that way, and they are 3 feet with a mask. And I just want to know how they're doing, how their cases are going, how their isolations, what we can learn from each other.
That's right.
And a lot of the schools that have not opened yet, I guess, could be doing that research as well. I mean, the ones who have opened, we have stories to tell. And it's not easy, but I've been reading a lot of literature as well, and doing a lot of research on all of this as we go through. And even in some of the other states, because this is happening to all of us, and we can learn from each other. A lot of this, if you have to also think, we are in a new world in education, everything we do. But what is changing is, now that people are opening, the new world doesn't have to be a lockdown in a cave. The new world is, we come back and we're A, B. If we have good data, maybe we come back, and again, that's, if we come 5 days a week, that's still only half of our population, because half is still virtual. And the realities that we're living with, and now that we've had to live with, yes, we're calling parents, and some parents are still getting frustrated. Why is my child isolated? Well, your child showed symptoms, and we went through the process, and the doctors and the nurses are saying, yep, you need to be isolated. And the alternative to that, though, is we're not open at all then. So would you rather be home for 10 days, keep everyone else safe, so that we can stay open, and in 10 days your child can come back? It's our new reality. This is our new world. We're going to have these things. People are going to go home. People are going to come back. And when we shut down is if we start to have a spread within the school. And I think the more we say that to people, and I think the more, like, once our teachers come back in the high school, then some of them have apprehension about coming back, they're going to see it's not the same. They're envisioning the hallways full, because that's what they know. It's a different world, and I think we're doing a good job with that.
Madam Chair.
Julia, you said.
I was going to ask if you'd talk to folks in any divisions that are now going back to more classes, more grade levels.
Yeah,
than
so we
what we're
talk,
starting with.
yeah, so we talk within the region, and Chesapeake is
Is the biggest
is the main one, and he's indicated it's going well, but I really think I want to go see what does that look like, and I'm sure he'll let me come down.
Right.
So.
What are their
Some of
grade
the-
levels that are open right now?
They're pre-K through 3, correct,
They
Susan?
read 5 days a week, and then they're doing a hybrid for middle and high. And they're
Okay.
staggering their starts, but they are bringing them back.
I know some of the counties in the central part of the state are doing the alternate day, and they've got all their kids back already, or close to them all.
Right, right.
I was wondering if you'd seen any, been to any of those divisions. or-
Well, we did have a vast meeting where some people from different part of the state shared their experiences
Right.
so far. And it's been pretty similar. There has been some outbreaks in schools where it was multiple cases, and by contact tracing, yes, it did come from this child to this child, or this adult to this child to another child. That's when it becomes a problem.
So, I mean, I'm really happy we're not having cases in our schools and that the mitigations are working. At the semester point, we're gonna have a lot of, let me take this off so you can hear me. We're gonna have a lot of families that do decide, you know what, our mitigation tactics are working. Right now, your 50% is virtual, so it is easy to socially distance, and it is, you have, and you have AB right now, so you do only have 25% of the kids in school. So now, I know you're talking about this, because at the semester mark, you're probably gonna ask families to make decisions around Christmas time, that holiday break, on what they want to do, whether they want to go back to school or if they want to stay virtual. And I know some families will stay virtual, because there are a lot of families who are very adamant that that's what they want. And we're going to offer that next semester. Is that correct?
Correct.
But there are going to be a lot of families who go, you know what, I feel like it might be safe for my kid to go back. If let's say 25% of those virtual families do decide to go back, what are our mitigation plans? Because that really changes the whole picture of social distancing, bus riding. I mean, it changes our ability to do everything we're doing now and how we're doing it.
It does. Those are good points, which is why I want to have the discussion now and put those vlogs out there and have those conversations, because you're right. Some of them may say the mitigations are going well, but I want those families to know we may be opening 5 days a week. Now, you might think our mitigations are going well with what we're doing now, but then you might not want to come if we're going to come back and you're 3 feet with a mask. So that may change someone's opinion too, but it does present a concern if we have a lot of people that want to come back. We need to keep 3 feet as a minimum, and that could become a concern. It would be a concern if everyone was back. I'm not sure what the threshold is, but it would definitely push some classes under 3 feet, and we can't do that. We need to have at least the 3 feet and the mask. So those are all things to consider as we go through this journey.
I mean, I'm doing the virtual. I'm open to possibly going back in the, depending on what's going on with everything, because that's a decision you make at that time with the information you have at that time. But, I mean, it's hard right now. If you have 2 working parents, my husband and I both work, it is hard to get all the kids' work done, to get on the Zooms, to make sure that they're doing their reading, their GG, and not just on YouTube watching dancing cat videos. So I know a lot of parents are seeing that, and they're frustrated and they're tired, and some of them might send them back just because they're like, I'm done. And so I think you are going to see more people going back to school. And if we're at 5 days, is it possible that it would switch to an AB model because we can't social distance? Like if you were to do 5 days, would you roll back because there's more kids?
We could have to.
Or would you, I'm just, because I know we don't have space to expand into additional classrooms at this point. There's nowhere to go, which is part of the reason we're building new schools. But these are things that are, as a parent who is home virtually with their kids, who is open to the possibility of them going back for the spring semester. I need to feel comfortable with it. And I know there are other parents who are in the same position as me where their kids are virtual. I would love for them to be back at school 5 days a week.
but, when I feel it's safe for them too. And knowing that, if all the kids were to go back right now, we would have issues doing the mitigations we're doing. So that's just
I
where,
will say, Susan brought that up as we were discussing it earlier, of when we go back. We know there was a continuum of 5 days a week, but there's been so much discussion about AB and just getting back that our elementary parents, pre-K through 3, are they even thinking that that's a possibility? And I guess, and again, I'm a math guy. I think analytically, I've shared that before. I don't believe, and I can't get my head wrapped around artificial dates. Like, there are dates, like we need furniture to come in before we make another decision, and those are not artificial. Those help us with spacing. But to arbitrarily say, all right, we'll try 5 days a week after Christmas, or to me, after Christmas may be a nightmare. After Thanksgiving, after everyone's home for the holiday, it might be an explosion. We don't know. So I'm not one who's looking at the artificial dates. I'm looking at the internal mitigations and our data and basing our decision as to when we open on those factors and logistical factors as well. But I think it's important, I think Susan said it, which was very smart. We need to let people know what we're planning and thinking so that their mind is ready. Okay, oh, they may open 5 days a week. We may have people who wanted to be in person and now are comfortable with 2 days a week. You see what I'm saying? So, and then our teachers again. Our teachers get very comfortable in this, then they're very comfortable in this. Now, they should know how to teach 5 days a week, but everyone's going to have a mask on. And the bus is probably the biggest concern again. But I just wanted to get that out there, and I think I'm going to be doing a lot of vlogs and information letters home so people can start thinking about this. I don't want them to feel like they were blindsided.
Madam Chair, may I have?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Thornton, going forward, especially with your 2021-22 fiscal school budget,
Yes, ma'am.
and reading some of the things that I did some reading this week. I read all the time. And I saw where there are some school districts, especially the larger ones in the state of Virginia, they're having the issue right now where parents have decided to do homeschooling. Now, I'm hearing the 25% here, the 25% here, and all of that. I think we need to plan now going forward. And normally we don't have to do this, but we're not in normal times. And I don't even know if we're going to get back to normal times, but when, we don't know. If you can send something out now to the parents, especially those that have their children 100% virtual, if they are going to be planning going the next school year homeschooling, because that will, if they make that decision, that will play a major role in our budgeting. So we need to know that early. Normally we probably wouldn't have to do that because there's only 1 or 2 here and there, but I've heard several families saying they're liking the 100% and it's working for them because you're having a lot of parents now working from home and they enjoy doing the educational part with their children. And they're thinking about doing that full time. So we need to know if we're going to have a vast number, even if it's 20, we need to know that, or if it's going to be 50, because this one school system had 2,300 already.
Right.
And that's a big dip in somebody's,
Now, the ADM, how was our ADM looking for this year?
Still not good.
It's still not good.
Yeah.
Still
So
a
we
big
need to,
hole.
we need to maybe put something out there early and to find out, are you planning to do that route so we would know how to budget?
I think that's a good point. Budgeting is going to be difficult. Another decision is even the big divisions, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, et cetera, who thought they could do virtual teachers at the secondary level and just in person, found with the scheduling and the different needs of different students, it's just not possible unless you have, whether it's a separate regional school, and I think we're going to talk about that as a region, or having that K-12 and having a virtual school where we'll lose a portion of our ADM and pay them and have our virtual kids so we don't totally lose them. We have a lot to research.
Because we were considering that.
It is. It's going to be
In
a
the
struggle.
past.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't we, let's say, 100 families moved over to homeschooling more than last year? I think you said it was like
believe it
250
was.
last year and 350 something this year. That was the number I was told
It's
earlier.
higher, but I don't have the exact.
Yeah, I can get that, yeah.
I mean, so, but I know at least 5 families that I know through my kids that have switched to homeschooling.
Who coordinates our homeschool?
Colleen,
Colleen Lau.
yeah. They all send an email, or most of them send an email to me, because I think it's set up like that. And I forward them, so I actually do get to see that impact.
Right.
We've had quite a few. And then quite a few that just didn't come back.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
No further
Thank you.
comments? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.